Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's double feature for Valgas. So Saturdays, first and third, we have a double feature night. It is first Blaze of Cruelty, then At the Door of Eternity. But today's the last session that we're going to have for Blaze of Cruelty because it's our campaign wrap up. Yay! That being said, stick around for our session 11 of At the Door of Eternity, and then we have additional sessions coming up. Let me take a look at the schedule real quickly. On the 5th, that's today. Today's 15th. On the 19th, we have the part 2 of In the Heart of Rages, optional combat. That was pretty intense last week, so you should probably catch up once I post the VODs this week before sessions so that you can understand where they're at. And then on the 26th of February, we have the campaign wrap up for In the Heart of Rage. Yay! Sad to see campaigns go, but it's good to watch them leave. And then March, we have on the 1st At the Door of Eternity. Just At the Door of Eternity at 8:30 p.m. And then we have Kingdom of Darkness, session 5.5, which is not broadcast on the 12th. Then on the 15th, we have At the Door of Eternity again, session 13. And then on the 26th of March, we have Kingdom of Darkness, first session, the campaign premiere, at 7 p.m. US East. As far as Baptized in Blood goes, we're currently looking at April. So, stay tuned to these announcements. This is where I give you the most up-to-date information before it gets launched out of the confetti cannon and blown to smithereens. So, that's pretty much it for announcements. I'm going to go ahead and bring us over to our players, and we're going to go and say hi to everybody. So, just a second here. Alright, we're back. Let's go ahead and do introductions. Hi, everybody. How are we doing?
Good.
We're live.
Yeah, we're alive. Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and do those introductions now. So, Cynthia, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Cynthia. I play Rianne Asta, and technically I'm the adult of the group.
Yeah. Rianne Ver Ardesta. I think you've only gotten it right maybe like twice.
Probably.
Daniel, go ahead. Can't hear him speaking. We're gonna skip Daniel. Jordan, go ahead.
Yay. Hi, I'm Jordan, and I played, past tense, Agnar, who tried his very best.
Yeah, certainly did. Raven, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Raven, and I used to play James.
Indeed. And, Gavi.
I am Gabby. I played Veracasa of Jinan.
Mm-hmm. And Daniel, let's try that again.
Testing.
Ah, it works!
I've been speaking this whole time.
No!
And then Cynthia's like, oh, finally, you can hear me. I was like, you can hear me. I can hear you. I'm here.
I just get this image of, like, you're a ghost, and you're like, I'm right here! And no one can hear you? No.
Well, I don't have any nouns, so I'm just gonna stop talking.
Any hoozles. I am Daniel. I play Dominic or Timothy, depending on where you know it. Entrepreneur, very persistent paladin who's not very good at paladining, and now store owner.
Mm-hmm.
Philanthropist.
Yeah. Oh, well, welcome to the campaign wrap-up, guys. We made it. We got to the very end. And only a few of you died, which is pretty good, I would say. We started this campaign what was it, Raven? You said 2 years ago and some months, right? Something like that. And this is the first Valgas campaign full Valgas campaign we've run. So in a lot of ways, it was the pioneer for all of this. I think it's been pretty successful. We've had some characters come and go. Had this cough for 2 months now. Kill me. But we started, every character that we started with, aside from the one who couldn't start the game at all, made it to the end of the campaign, which I think is pretty good, pretty wild. So, we had our introduction sessions a while back, and the only character that we had an introduction session for that didn't actually play was Leonardo Vecchi, and his character was supposed to be like a druid, if I recall correctly, and he was wanted for arson, which wasn't his fault, I believe, but he was wanted for arson. So
I feel like that would have been a fun combination with Timmy.
yeah, Timmy, whose manor burned down, right? So let me kind of wrap into this a little bit. Sorry, Jordan, you're gonna have to take a seat on the bench for a moment as we talk about the very beginning of the campaign. But let me go around the room here and ask our original players about that part of the campaign and how they feel about it at the end. So let's start with Raven. Your part of the campaign began. Excuse you, Odie. He just came into the room like he owns the place. Odie, what the fuck, man?
He does own the place.
Lay down. Can't help you right now. So Raven, your campaign began in Fordeath at your store with your character's wife, Liz, who you were paying off some guy, if I recall. He was in debt. Yeah, he was in debt to the local mob. He sold the debt that he had for you to them, and they came to collect, and then burned your store down, killed your wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts about that event reaching the end of the campaign, and how does James feel about things with that in mind?
How I personally feel, it still haunts me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I haven't really put it in any part of the campaign until the very end, really. But so many things were going on at the same time that James didn't really have a moment to put a focus on what had happened and really had to focus on what is happening. So in that small moment of rest, that was the moment he got the moment to think about it.
Do you feel like his revenge was satisfied for him?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. As a player, how do you feel about that whole arc? I know you just said he didn't put it to the forefront very often, but I'm sure it was in his mind what was going on. As a player, how do you feel about that story, right? Raven.
I think as a player, I could have done more with it. and I have no idea why I didn't.
You know.
I mean, this campaign has been going on for like 2.5 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 2 years, 4 months, exactly. By now, so.
Well, something to consider for your next character. You will be in Baptized in Blood, so, you know, there's potential for more story there for your new character. We won't discuss that here today, but if you're feeling like you could have done more with what you had provided for your backstory, you know, lesson to carry over into that next part of our storytelling here. So, you know, and you know, there's a lot of onus, I think, put on players and DMs and all the time to, you know, tie in backstory, really dig down into that, and while that's a lot of fun, and it can definitely put a player in the spotlight, it does have the tendency to like put other characters on the bench, right? Because, you know, if we're solving this character's thing and then we're solving this character's thing and then this character's thing, we are doing arcs that are jumping back and forth between characters, and there's the potential for the overall story to get lost in the mince, right? Because, you know, trying to tie everything together is a lot. So if that's all you wanted to say on your like beginning to end personal story arc right there, Raven, we can move to another player. If not, if there's something else you want to say, go ahead.
The last thing I want to say is that in that 2.5 years, I think I have improved as a player, and I think with Baptized in Blood, I think I can do some really nice things regarding backstory, roleplay. I already have a couple of things in mind that might happen, might not happen. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely looking forward to it. So, okay, let's scooch along to. We'll do Daniel for this part because both Rianne and Verkasa, Sin and Javi's characters shared a introduction session. So let's do Daniel for next. So Daniel,
okay.
Your introduction session was just a wedding party, right? Your family was celebrating the fact that their daughter was getting married to a local nobleman, Nikolai Ercharin. And this was a big deal for your family because it meant you were moving up in the world a bit. You were becoming a more solid ally to your liege lords, who were the Charon family, which, you know, was exciting for your father and which was exciting for your brothers. Not so much for you as a character, I think, at the time when that was going on. Your character was more of a, well, I'd rather do merchant stuff and botany stuff, and I'd rather be doing something other than just, like, learning to run land and that sort of thing. So,
Right.
Right. So between that introduction session where everything went to hell and then the end of the campaign, what are your thoughts? What did you think about that arc? Because your character very much was at the forefront of a lot of the side stuff that was happening, right? So what are your thoughts about all that?
I think Dominic came into the world a very flawed character. And
Yeah.
he, for whatever reason, the dice were never with me. Whenever it counted, the dice were always against me. And I think that played well with his overall arc. If I needed to avoid getting hit in the head or knocked unconscious, it would happen. If I needed to make a hit, it didn't happen. It was perpetual, I think, played into Dominic being the screw-up. And I kind of leaned into that over the sessions as well. You know, if there was going to be something that you shouldn't do, Dominic was probably going to do it. And so I've really enjoyed the character as he's developed and kind of came to terms with his arc as it got to the end, which I thought was also kind of ironic, in that even at the end, he still kind of screwed up his revenge, but he's still trying.
Yeah, definitely a victim of the dice rolls, and I do have to say you did roll into that very well. You definitely rolled with those punches and used them as a means to characterize your character, which I think is how you should go about it a lot of the time. Because I know the dice can be extremely frustrating sometimes, but I do have to say yours was a masterclass in how to take those results and just turn it into a character moment or a characterization. Because over time, I think Dominic definitely was starting to feel like, I am the screw up. Rianne keeps calling me. This is true. How is this happening to me? What happened? When it matters the most, I fail. How? That became such an anthem for the character that I felt legitimately bad every time I asked you to roll anything, because I was like, he's gonna fuck it up. This is important. It's gonna get fucked up. And then you would roll shit, and then we're all like, no!
I think where I made the character shine was narratively and not mechanically, which I think that's also my play style as well. So it worked out really well for Dominic.
I've said before that really the narrative of the moment, the dice provide like the weather vane or like the rudder to the narrative, but it really is up to us how we interpret that and how we position that. The narrative has to be first and foremost because we are, doing a story here. We're telling a collective story, even if it isn't written or scripted, right? The story that we're telling is collaborative, and so and we're one of the collaborators that is here as well, but is not really here, is the dice. They don't necessarily have their voice; they just do their thing. So I think you did a really good job incorporating their voice, right, the dice's voice, into your character and through those narrative moments. So hats off to you, sir, for that. You really put up with a whole lot of nat ones and sub 5 rolls. So
Well, I think that's why I said I think it's fitting that Dominic is still out there trying to not screw up, and I foresee just screwing up spectacularly in different ways.
you think he's gonna wind up in prison one day just for something totally unrelated?
I mean, if he winds up in prison, he's somehow going to get out. Like, I don't know if he'll, like, Leon, his previous contacts, maybe someone will feel sorry for him, let him out. So, pretty much like a crazy bearded person whenever he gets out, but still trying to get revenge, Like,
the most pathetic nobleman seeking revenge story.
Right. Somehow, knows a lot of people.
They're like, oh my god, this fucking guy again. Get your shit together. Do something else with your life. Alright. Anything else you wanted to say, Daniel? About this specifically?
No, I think he had a good run.
Good. Okay.
I've got one.
Okay.
For Daniel, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that scene where you let Dominic use all of whatever spell slots he had left before he changed to Paladin oaths in order to cast Zone of Truth. I think that's a great example of mechanics getting out of the way of a scene, and it's just kind of archetypal for how that character went.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of my players who've been playing with me much longer will say that I am tough but fair, or stern but fair. Like, I can be convinced to do something wacky, but you have to actually convince me. You can't just say, pretty please, right? You have to provide a convincing argument. And that was a convincing argument. Like, if you let me burn all my spell slots, can I get this one thing? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That's a fair trade. I'll buy that for $1, you know.
And it really helped with the narrative there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, cool. Let's
I have a
go ahead.
sorry, I have a question for both of you before we move on. Because I also had to switch to the laptop, so hopefully I sound okay.
You sound fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious from a character creation standpoint, how much of what happened with Dominic's family was the player and how much was the DM, and how, like, what was known when you went into that session 1 or the session 0, I guess.
Oh, like nothing was known. Completely blindsided.
So when we were making the character, I said, all right, you wanted to play noble, you wanted to do this. Tell me about your family, right? This is some background information for the area. Tell me about your family. And then he did. He gave me a family, and I said, all right, this is what I need to do to get him involved, and these are the things I need to do to up the stakes for him, to have him really bought in. Because part of the problem with character creation a lot of the time, especially when you're asking people to do like a full background, is why the fuck are they gonna bother being in your story here? Why does this character want to be involved with whatever shit is going on in your campaign, right? And that's a failure point for a lot of characters, is a person will build a character that they want to play. And it turns out to be a great character, wonderful. But they can't answer the question, why does your character want to be involved in this shady fucking business over here that is pretty much every D&D campaign? Because it seems to me like they're living a wonderful life, they've got a wonderful family, they're rich, like, how and why, it doesn't make sense. So then he handed me that, and I said, okay.
At the end of that first session, I was not only badly burnt on top of, like, burning on top of a pile of bodies of my dead family members. I was broke, had no money, no bodily possessions. Woke up in the middle of a hut in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, I single-handedly destroyed his family, burned his house down, robbed him blind, you know, in one session, and that gave him the buy-in as a character to be in the campaign. Right? Because you can't make a character that wouldn't want to be involved for some reason. So part of that was just I'm gonna take this character who's got a perfectly good life, ruin his life. There we go. And it was good that you brought that up, Gabby, because it's kind of important to talk about things in that sort of fashion. So that was a good question. Okay, ladies.
Yes.
Sin and Gavi, you both played Rian Ver Ardesta and Verakasa Avjinan. Both dark elves, related to the Aryash family. Both of these characters were prologue characters, and so they carried over into this campaign with a little extra. Most of it was money, but with a little extra here and there. One of you had an item, the other one of you was, I think you had a couple of items too, Vera. And I think that speed potion, for example, was from the prologue campaign that Vera was in, the 3-shot that she was in.
Because I just saw it in my inventory. It was like, oh, this would have been very helpful.
Yeah. So your introduction session was shared between the two of you, and you were on your way trying to find Calvin Aryash, who was our principal antagonist for this campaign. And when you got home back to your family, the Aryash family's ancestral home, that castle there, met with your nephew and or cousin, depending on which of the two ladies we're talking about. And Calvin had begun a rampage that night in the castle itself. Coming from that session to the end of the campaign, what are your thoughts on that arc, and how do you feel about it? And was it satisfying. Just same conversation that we've had with Raven and Daniel. What are go ahead and speak your thoughts and minds on that.
Brienne is incredibly sad. I mean, she wanted to spare Vera having to kill Calvin. She was going to do it. She didn't want Vera to take that particular responsibility on. So having Vera do it because Rianne was down is a weight on her shoulders. However, for the rest of it, oh, it was awesome. We totally blank on that one. That was just delightful. The game was very, very good. I have questions. Oh dear Lord, I have questions. But for the arc, it was a good arc. It flowed. There were some side quests we went on, and I loved them. Vera wasn't. Rianne was annoyed about them because she's kind of single-minded that way. But you know, it was good. Gabby?
I think for me, I have the character response and I have the player response.
Mm-hmm.
And my character, I think, it wasn't the way she thought it would end, but if there had to be an end, you know, she can't really complain. You know, I think there was a part of her still at the end that was hoping that Calvin was still there. And I did try to play that up a little bit. From a player, I think, you know, Azeloth and I have talked about this a little bit, but Vera was created with a one-shot in mind. So she was the character that I built to play around with Barbarian. And what I was trying to do was make a different type of Barbarian. And when we evolved her into the larger story, the challenge that I had was that I didn't really build her outside of a 3-shot. So that's where some of the, she evolved as I was figuring out who she was through the campaign. So there are parts of that early session where, I wasn't quite sure what she would do because I didn't have a very firm idea, simply because she was a 3-shot character based on, playing around with a different type of play style. So I'm very happy with how she evolved towards the end. But if there's any inconsistencies, that's entirely on me, and that's just kind of a background. But I loved the campaign. It was amazing to play with everybody and to have the ending that it did.
That's great. Okay, so Jordan, you didn't get the benefit of a character introduction session, but your character did go on a journey of their own, traveling from the Darthax to Sorath and heading south to where the war really was, where he met his ultimate end, right? So what are your thoughts about his personal journey there? Then we can get to our question and answer session where grill me.
I think in general I like what happened to Agnar. I do think that there's, of course there's a part of me that wishes he would have lived on, because don't we want legacies to continue? But how and where he ended, given his journey, might have, I think, just because it was practically very sudden doesn't mean that narratively it was. I like the idea that he kind of came out of the Darthax being a little bit lost, kind of just taking care of Reinald. And then just stumbled across what to him became the most important struggle, which was fighting down these cults and this demon invasion, which I think went from kind of a distant myth to oh, this is just sort of an everywhere problem, and it's where he's best served.
That's good.
And I don't hate that he kind of turned into rather than participating in that fight more himself. He's just sort of transformed into the motivation for at least one other PC, and however much his willingness to join that fight and then dying in it might have affected Furia.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that your character and everyone's characters could and do affect things going on, right? Things moving forward. One of the good things about having like several interwoven stories and campaigns in a world that continues to be persistent like this is you can come back after some time and trace, from the beginning what character choices are made and then how they play out for everyone else, right? So, we don't know how far Agnar's legacy will live, but we do know that it left an impression on both Furia and on Renault, so we'll see what happens. And Renault is going to be in Baptized in Blood, and you, Jordan, are going to be in Baptized in Blood as a player, at the very least. So, we'll see, and you will see directly what comes of that. So that'll be pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Alrighty. Let's go ahead and switch over to the question and answer portion of our exam here. Let's start with you guys. So if there's any questions you want to ask each other about moments or characters or motivations and what was going on, go ahead. If you want to share some cool moments that you thought were really great, feel free. This is sort of like an open Q&A between the five of you.
I don't know if Daniel has I suppose it's conspicuously on accident, maybe just because I've gotten to see a lot of his D&D characters. He makes a lot of people that are archetype, like, I can't think of the real correct word to use there, so I'm just going to butcher one in a German fashion. Archetypically, a kind of Guy Fawkes character, where I think history looks at them as being very important, but they failed.
Is there a question?
Like, do you enjoy running those, or do they come organically from you?
I think so I never do a min max, and I'm sure even if sometimes whenever like Azeloth looks at my character sheet, he's like, what the hell is this guy doing here? That doesn't make sense. Why do you have cooking as a skill for a paladin? But I think that having the flawed characters are a lot funner to play instead of like min-max characters. And having them stumble into other people's stories, like I don't think I helped their revenge against Calvin more than I hampered it, but I definitely impacted it. And that's the goal.
Well, Daniel, Timmy was a pain in the butt, but my God, you played him well. Dice rolls notwithstanding, he was one of the most interesting and possibly annoying characters I've ever had the joy to game with, and I've been gaming for over 40 years. So, I think you did it just fine. However, I will really want to know some answers to some questions, so. And the only person who has those answers, I think, is our dear game master.
Uh-oh.
I think the only regret I have in the game is that I didn't get more like character moments with Raven's characters, Jordan's characters, and Dreo's character. Well, the last two were so new, but the other one, like with you, Raven, it was either because we were busy, like not dying, or so I think next game maybe I'll focus a little bit more on character outreach because there were a couple of like really good moments, and those are the ones I find I remember the most.
Oh god, yeah, the one with the lieutenant where you picked up blood frenzy.
Well, that was
That was
good.
incredible. That was incredible.
Being caught in the tree with my pants down, that was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
I think you were
I do.
there.
It was very, very early. It was like our first run through of Set Track, I think.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty early on.
Yeah, also the scene with James and Dominic sharing the room where James picks out that Dominic's lying about the letter he just got, but doesn't press him on it. I think that's a nice example of both those characters.
Yeah, the other questions I have are for DM questions. Like, what's the deal with these damn swords? It's been driving me crazy for 2 years, and there's like...
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, I'm gonna wait for everybody to be done asking each other questions and you can grill me, so. Jordan, you asked a question, right? Of Daniel, and then Sin chimed in. Anyone else have any other questions for each other? No?
For those that joined fairly recently, I think we probably just have the one right now. So, Agnar, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that you built in that character that because of how short you had a chance to play that didn't come up?
Well, kind of in general, that class combination is shines level 5 and below. I think when you're just playing with the books that are available here, Booming Blade is one of the most efficient ways to do damage before classes get access to multi-attack, especially given meta magic stuff. But the rest of that character is extremely good at punishing characters that are trying to run away from it. I think we didn't really have the encounters that we got into, people were trying to come to us and kill us. So I think that's one spot where Agnar didn't quite get to show off his just ability to stand next to another caster and say, if you move from this spot, you die, and if you stay here, I will kill you. That didn't quite come up. But he certainly, nerf batted a lot of things with Booming Blade, and I can't complain about that.
Well, if that's it then, okay, grill me.
Swords.
What swords?
What? These swords?
What are you holding them? Are you speaking specifically about? Let's see here. Let me take the sheet.
My sword, Raven's sword.
The Radiant Crest of a Saber you had?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all had these special swords.
So James's was definitely his packed weapon, but we'll get to that one in a moment. Because you asked the question, let's talk about that sword that you have. this one that you were given in the hut in the woods by that witch, as you put it. You know, that one, elven weapon. It's a dark elven weapon, because it's a crest of saber. So, yeah, you needed a weapon, and she gave you one. She seemed to give you a lot of the things you needed, like care and medical attention. So, that's kind of a start right there. But, you know, do you have a specific question about the sword itself, or?
I mean, I just feel like the witch is either a Ratatouille moment for me,
Mhm.
like I keep seeing her in places and she's not really there, or she's really there controlling Linguini and he's taking over my restaurant.
I see. Well, if she was there, you didn't see her, right? Because you didn't ever succeed a perception check, I think, in the entire campaign.
This is true.
But the sword didn't compel you to do anything. I didn't send you any whispers or tells telling you that the sword was compelling you to do something. So, you know, I think you're giving the sword a bad rap.
Well, Agnar also met a witch, and I'm pretty sure that the sword matched the similar type as James's sword, and I think also Gabby's sword for Vera.
So Vera's sword is also a crest for saber, yes.
Yeah, but also a half drow.
Yes. Vera's also.
But did a witch give it to you? Was it the same witch?
No.
No witch.
No,
Go ahead.
it's my family sword.
Yeah, it's.
But who gave it to your family?
Huh?
Who gave it to your family? Is what he's asking.
I mean, it's existed in my family for generations, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it was given by a witch. There's something
Maybe,
about this
but-
witch lady.
I'm a drow, so like that's what drow do. They have family swords.
A lot of them.
Racial trait: strange women distributing swords.
Yeah, right. Fun fact: I'm the strange woman.
I've got a sword for you.
Right.
James's sword was not a dark elven weapon. It was a regular elven or Western elven weapon given to him by his wife, who was a half elf or an elf, I think. I recall. Right, James?
Half elf.
Half elf, yeah. So that was also a family heirloom that got passed to him. Sorry. So these two swords and Vera's sword were all, with the exception of yours, Dominic, were heirlooms. Yours was given to you by that witch. So. I think the most interesting thing about your sword, the one that you were given, was that it was both old and new at the same time. It was older than Vera's sword, but it was of a newer design that didn't exist yet.
So the witch is a time traveler.
Possibly, yeah.
Or a persistent element in an otherwise looping situation.
Agnar, have you been watching other games?
Maybe.
Oh, that's good though. I guess we can bring that up in a moment. Does that answer your swords question, Daniel?
I think it only adds more questions.
Oh.
Like now, I think she's like Doc Browning me into like maybe my future's different because I went back in time and kissed my mother. Now
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, what roles do I have to do to see if Agnar has kid?
Has a kid? I mean, do you want to do that right now? We can do that right now.
Oh no.
You asked for it.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if emotionally I can handle failure right now.
okay. Do you or do you not want to do this right now?
What are the... Damn.
The chances are 50-50. Either it happens or it doesn't.
Can't be 50-50. I feel like I could at least make the lawyer's argument that I get my con mod on.
If you want to do it that way, yeah, we can do it that way. Want to roll a constitution check? Get over a 50 or over a 10 on it.
No, I think we're gonna put that one off.
Okay.
I think we're gonna...
All right.
We'll stew on the suspense there.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it probably
Ah.
won't matter until 3 or 4 phases of this
Yeah.
have gone by.
Oh, you don't want to give the GM a future plot hook? Hey, be nice.
So I got plenty.
maybe,
I got plenty of snacks for now. Well, we can talk about it later, Jordan.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay. Well, I do want to confirm something for Rianne, right? You wanted to, for your character, you wanted her to go back to her barony and settle down and have a family, right?
Eventually, yeah. Currently, the kingdom is still in danger.
All right.
But yeah, at some point, she wanted to settle down,
Did she want to?
find a nice guy, and make more babies, more cousins
Okay.
to watch after the humans.
Okay. Then what did she do right after everything resolved in Sorath?
Oh, God.
Because you didn't get to declare your character's intentions, because you missed the last session.
No, I did. Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a fever and was on medication.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gaming on that combo. Well, get healed for one thing.
Yep.
Send word to the Duke that Calvin died a long time ago, like they thought.
Mm-hmm.
Comfort her cousin because Veracasa was closer to Calvin than she was and had to kill him. One of the things I wanted to do, I think she might have too, would be do something about the stupidity that was currently running around in the city, because nepotism, gross inefficiency, and cronyism drives her insane.
Mm-hmm.
None of that goes with her background, because you put the least before you highest, because she eats, breathes, and lives noblesse oblige.
Right.
So probably talking to Furia about the various problems with the governor, the garrison, how things need fixed, sending letters to the various people she knows about getting Sorath in better shape.
Maybe breaking someone out of prison.
Maybe breaking someone out of prison if he's in prison. Going back to the capital and playing politics, which he hates with a passion,
Mm-hmm.
to get it done if necessary.
Okay. Alrighty then. Was that everything?
And that, and to keep defending Cruins.
Okay.
It's what she's done her entire life.
Gotcha. Alrighty. With that said, let's get to another question then. Whoever's brave enough to ask the next one.
The cult.
What about it?
Was it destroyed?
The Final Right cult was destroyed, with the exception of one mage that escaped.
Do.
So you almost got all of them.
Could we have gotten all of them?
Yeah. If you'd killed that other,
Oh, okay.
if you'd killed both enemy mages before you finished Calvin off, yeah, you could have killed them all.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell was going on with the city guard and the, sleeping disease?
Okay, so that was a side plot that had a lot to do with what Calvin was doing. So, demonic phenomena can manifest in many ways, and one of the ways it manifests is through like nightmares in the individuals that are sleeping. And so a lot of the city had been dealing with nightmares because Calvin had been in communication with the Talian Crusade and his masters there for quite some time when he was in the city. And he was also using, some citizens for spell fuel and that sort of thing. And that leaves a lasting impact on the people around when that sort of thing happens. For starters, like the psychological effects of just someone just going missing is pretty deep. And then on top of it, like you're having nightmares that are just horrific. So what winds up happening is a lot of people can't sleep. And where the connection to that is the Red Razors were using had a means to get Sarasomna, which was the drug that was helping people sleep, and so they were distributing it, making a lot of money, and the local garrison was on the take for it. They were looking the other way. They also, the local garrison also needed it as well as everybody else because they were just as affected by it. So there was that going on, and then you had at the very top of the local garrison that lord. His name was Commander Lester Ver Van Cressa. Complete and utter toady, just absolutely useless man. Bit of a psycho. Right. Didn't really care about anybody and wasn't really inclined to do any actual, like, police work or really any work whatsoever. So he just reaped the benefits of his position. He turned a blind eye to everything. And the lieutenant that you guys came into contact with had been convinced earlier in the week, in that first week that you guys got there, by Calvin to join him. So there was a lot of stuff moving in the background that you guys were unaware of. But one of those things was Calvin convinced this lieutenant to join him and offered him some power, and he took it. And so he started to corrupt his men as well. And that corruption began to run through the battalion garrison. At the end of the campaign, the Furia and a couple of other player characters, Vera, Renault, and Agnar, went through and sussed out the corruption in the city, just like you just declared that Rianne would be doing, and took care of that, arresting people, executing those that didn't go quietly, etc. So, burning out the heart of the corruption in the garrison itself was another 2 to 3 weeks of action that led to the beginning of the summer, right? Which made it impossible for Furia to return to Helcorth before Alsaurus began. So I hope that answers your question. I kind of started to ramble there for a bit.
No, we want you to ramble because that leads into another question that I have, and if Daniel doesn't ask it, I will.
Daniel, do you have a question that
I don't know.
Okay.
How does the lieutenant play into Dominic's background, or was that the captain?
Oh, he doesn't. Neither of them do. So we're talking about two different people here. So
Okay. I'm trying to remember 2 years worth of stuff.
Oh, there's Darrow.
Hey,
The
Darrow.
individual that you're talking about, the one that played into Daniel's character's backstory, was Valentin Verscharen. He is a scion of one of the cadet houses of the Charons, and he
Sworn enemy.
And he was a captain of their house guard, and so he was the guy who was just following orders. This is a different person than the lieutenant that you came across that was corrupted. I know there were a lot of NPCs, but this is a different person than that. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a Daniel question then. So I will not steal it from him.
Okay. Darrow, welcome back. We're doing the question and answer section of the exam. What we did cover before was the general arcs of our characters and what we enjoyed about them, and what we thought might have been lacking potentially, if it was lacking. If you want to chime in for Reynolds, that's fine. That's entirely up to you. You want to skip that and leave that to be discovered in Bib, you certainly can.
Well, I mean, for Renault, I had a great time playing him. I think that his ending was very fun, honestly, and the idea of what happened to him. I'm the kind of guy that likes to play like permadeath games because I like interesting things happening, even if they're not necessarily all good.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he got ambushed on the road out, and that he's going to have to go through this whole change is really fun to me. I think that the way I played him up until this point wasn't great, because I probably shouldn't be playing two Rangers at the same time in the future. I think my personalities for both of them kind of interchanged just a bit, but otherwise I had a really, really good time playing him with all of you and interacting with Agnar and the rest of the crew.
That's good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're back in our question and answer portion where you guys grill me for answers to questions about the campaign, about the characters, and everything else. Continue grilling me. I'm not even close to being done yet.
I've got one.
Sure, yeah.
So I am sad to see the. I completely understand why, but I am sad to see the intro vignettes not making a return later. And I get the reason for that was because we had a couple of dropped people, and the question is, what did we not get to because of those drops? Like, what arcs do you wish we had gotten to see?
So, okay. So there's like a difference between what arcs could have happened and what arcs didn't happen because of character drops. And the only thing that was lost because of character drops was Leonardo Vecchi's character arc, right? Because that was what was planned. He was entangled with the Verscharen too. So he would have owed them a significant sum of money for the arson of their apartments in Sorath. But because he couldn't continue with the campaign, that didn't happen. So the three gentlemen who would have been starting the campaign were Leonardo Vecchi, James Ornoris, and Dominic Manipul. And these three gentlemen would have had common motivation to, at the very least, look into things happening in Sorath because of either the nobility there or the criminal element there, right? So they would have been bonded in that way, and we would have had the ladies bonded in their own way with the family, and so that was what was planned for, or to be the starting situation, and then they would have come together realizing that their problems are the same problems, right? And Calvin Ariash is behind a lot of what's going on in Sorath, and need to take care of him. So that's a good question, though. But there wasn't anything that got derailed by the middle joiners and then you two joining near the end. So, good question, though.
I always like the chance to talk about the stuff that I never get to as a DM. So
Yeah, it's super fun. There was a lot of stuff that didn't happen that could have, depending on what you guys got to and what you guys didn't get to. So there were some things some threads you didn't pick up, and because of that, certain things did and didn't happen. For example, that count that was found dead.
Yeah.
Because you didn't engage with him too much at all when he was there. He didn't see that you were a capable group of protecting him. And so he went on about his business without that protection, and so he was assassinated. Right? So that's one of those things where like you have a plot hook dangled and you don't bite. That's okay. I'm not personally offended by that because I have a thing that happens after that if you don't bite the hook, right? So that executes regardless. And a lot of the time, that stuff that happens after a plot hook happens like that, and you guys either decline or miss it, is a lot more fun than you guys taking it. So
I also feel like you had a lot. Like,
oh yeah.
like in real life, you choose the things that that you do. So there were never any shortage of things to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. Every NPC that you guys saw in the boarding house had a little side story going on with them. So there were quite a few side stories that you guys didn't engage with, and quite a few side stories you did engage with.
What ones did we miss that you wish we'd gotten?
Okay, so you remember that soldier Ansel Bordy? He was the painter. Vaguely remember him at all? Yeah. Okay, so he was in the boarding house quite often, and he was suffering from post-traumatic stress as well as the inability to sleep because of the demonic influence in the city. So he was one of those who was taking Sarasomna to help him sleep. When that got cut off, he couldn't stay anymore. So he eventually did leave. But he was painting a lot of stuff that was like related to the hells and demons and stuff. And he used to like paint regular portraits, but his little arc would have been like another lead into the Sarasomna thing. And you guys kind of like, that's interesting, but we're not too interested in that. We're gonna continue on with this story here. So he was another potential in that story. But what was going on with him was when he painted stuff, he thought it was what he used to paint, which is just landscapes and things. But then it would just come out as like a grisly landscape or some kind of like hellish landscape, and he would say, oh, this is just a mountain stream, and that sort of thing, and it would totally be not that, right? So
Okay.
So that one, for example, super fun, like sort of creep factor on that one. What were you gonna say, Darrow?
No, I wasn't really gonna say anything, but that is interesting. I've done that kind of idea once with a painting player character, where they went up on a rooftop and they tried to paint a woodland like scene that they were looking at, but they didn't realize there were creatures in the woods, and so when they finished, they saw all the creatures on their painting.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty neat.
So it's kind of the same thing. I like that.
Yeah. So that's one of them. There was a whole like little side romance plot. Like you guys could have played Cupid between the Scarborough farm, like dad, you remember him?
Yeah.
And this lady who owned these warehouses in town. You could have played Cupid between those two. So there was, you know, a little side potential romance story there. Let me see who else. Have page through. Oh, Belle and Chase, those two entertainers. They were kind of like, they were just there, but you could have gotten involved with like their little story to, you know, you could have course corrected Chase because he was a womanizer and a bit of a misogynist and sexist, and Belle was never going to get through to him, so you could have course corrected Chase. That was what was going on there. It wasn't really worth much of your time, but there was a little potential thing there. Let's see.
The violin player.
Amelia Masters.
Okay.
Yes.
Was her only thing the lost violin? Because I felt like she was a little shady.
Yes, her only thing was the lost violin. She's actually a composer, a well-known composer in Fordeth. She had come to Sorath for the card tournament. Once it was canceled, she really didn't feel like staying around too much, and I think I removed her not too long after a certain point. She just stopped showing up in the boarding house's common room. So, but yeah, she didn't have anything shady going on in the background. She just, you know, her violin had been stolen, and she wanted it back. She was very grouchy about it.
Speaking of stolen instrument,
Mm-hmm.
did I, as the human Jordan, lose my drum somewhere in Foundry, or was that drum taken?
Oh, a lot of the time when you're creating a character, it says you gain proficiency with an object, but then you don't actually receive the object because it's not part of your equipment loadout. So it was either that you never got one in the first place because it was just a proficiency you gained, or you misplaced it somewhere.
Yeah, I had one for a little while, but then after one of the times we got back on, it was just
Yeah.
it had fallen between the crack.
Yeah. Don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, we even had a there was that scene where I just shoved a bunch of items onto Dominic, and then later I actually went and asked him, like, "Hey, was one of those a drum?" He
You
was
might...
like, "We're in a dungeon. This is not important."
Not the time or place, pal. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's on Dominic's character sheet. Find out.
I mean, your problem there was entrusting anything to Dominic.
No, it's not on his sheet. So if you did transfer it, it got fucking lost. So
Yeah, I just thought that was fun. It was such a background thing, but that's also why Agnar didn't go play the drum or make any other performance checks. He was just like, "Well, I don't have a drum anymore."
how are you supposed to when you don't have it? Absolutely makes sense. Okay. Next question. I know you guys have some. Come on.
Oh yeah, it just my brain is just, you know how you get a test failure. You
Mhm.
know all the stuff, but you can't get it out.
I've got one. So, and I don't know if this has been talked about just yet because curl on my face. I got here late. So what about the water elemental in the bathhouse? What was there something in particular that like made you choose that one in that particular like encounter?
So, I had gone through the trouble of making the bathhouse a location of interest, much like many of the locations around Sorath. And then I was like, well, if they do go here, and I feel like having an encounter, this is what the encounter is going to be. So I had built an encounter for the location just in case I've, I felt like you guys needed to fight something, like you had ants in your pants, or if I needed to slow you guys down, like throw a net over you guys to like just slow you down for a session or something. Not that I really needed that because the whole campaign was ready by the time you guys started, but you know, it was both of those things. It was a optional encounter that was either going to serve a purpose of slowing you down, or it was going to just serve the purpose of scratching an itch for you. So
Nice. It was good. It definitely scratched an itch. So
yeah.
that was a fun encounter.
Yeah, I'm
I want
not
to
sure
know
what
what would have
the.
happened if. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll ask them
I
next.
was. Sorry. I was gonna say I don't know what the odds are on it, but I almost killed that thing a couple of times with lightning lash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a water weird that I just juiced up a little bit. It wasn't really anything super special beyond that.
Would have happened if Daniel's talisman hadn't melted.
So that talisman was a bit of just a fun thing that that Dominic picked up that I could fuck with him through. So, like a lot of objects that are just kind of hanging around or like in inventories for no reason, like James's book that deals psychic damage to him, um, the amulet that he destroyed. Yeah, you got to take 1 point of psychic damage. The amulet that he destroyed by fucking with it with the bathhouse pump was just a cult amulet that enabled him to communicate with like the switchboard telephone operating demons for, you know, Nahemeth and Ka. You know, it was sort of like a, hey, can I speak to, you know, my representative kind of thing. And so it was telling him to do stuff, or was giving him some powers. Like, I think it gave him dark vision up front. Which
Yep.
why, like, all of a sudden, in one of the darker places after that point, he couldn't fucking see in the dark anymore. Which I was cackling and rolling about, but, you know, you guys were like, what? So little things like that. That's kind of what it did. It did drive a little bit of a corruption gain on Dominic, but it didn't really push him too far. It didn't cause too much. So
It did allow me to learn a really awesome spell to juice up players and piss off Rianne.
it helped you learn those scrolls. Yeah.
Oh, she was gonna kill you. She was out and out gonna kill you. Oh, I don't know the new guy. I don't know if the new guys know that Rianne almost killed James.
Oh yeah.
Way back in the beginning. Rianne, he did magic in front of her, and it wasn't magic that was authorized.
Yes,
I
he
didn't
did.
know more about James's magic. And after the session, I emailed Azeroth and said, "Tell me why Rianne shouldn't kill James for doing magic in front of her." And I don't know what was going through his head.
Oh yeah, I
You,
remember this.
Azeroth.
Asloth, yeah, I remember this conversation. I was like, well, I gotta pump the brakes on Rianne somehow, otherwise Raven's gonna be rolling a new character here. So, and this
I was willing to have the brakes pumped. I really was, but I'm going. I hate this phrase, but it would be in character for her to do that.
Yeah. So, you know, two things about my take on player violence. The first one is I am not going to stop it out of character because you guys are adults, and if you're going to do that, you guys have better have worked it out between the two of you to start with. The second thing is when it comes to that, if your reason is an in-character reason that actually makes sense, you know, I will, allow it to happen. But when it's something that can be prevented just from a little bit of background understanding or some lore understanding, that's something I have to step in for. So with James, it was because he's a warlock, he's casting spells that aren't, from his own natural self. They're spells from something else. And so I had to explain there are a lot of things that can grant that kind of power. They could be objects, they could be gods, they could be, some other kind of creature, right? And so Rianne didn't have enough information as a character about where that magic was coming from to make that kind of snap judgment call. To just kill a dude who's casting magic that may have been just coming from, his wife's family sword, right? So that was what that was about.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was one of my best roleplay sessions, and the sound wasn't on.
Yeah. Yeah, I lost a lot of episodes through sound issues this campaign. I think it's like 4 or 5. It's pretty bad. Okay, next question.
I've got a fun one.
Okay.
So that first session that me and Agnar joined, how many GTA stars did we get in that fight, and how high could that have elevated?
You guys got at least like 3 stars on you, but the difference is they don't have a car to chase you around in. So
No helicopter.
yeah, if you guys had stuck around after that fight and just waited too much longer, you would have had at least a couple of squads of guys roll up on you. Which that would have been bad news for you, because if they arrested you and they definitely could tie a couple of those dead soldiers to the two of you. You guys were going to get the book thrown at you and probably executed for it. So yeah, that could have ended really poorly for the two.
So it was a good thing we left when we did.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's an interesting bit of character morality there for those characters to be otherwise heroic characters, but also from a culture that just really doesn't blink at death in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to feel very personally justified in having killed those otherwise totally innocent people, or whatever degree of innocence was applied to, those guards being misapplied.
Yeah.
I was innocent. I was the innocent one there.
Sure.
Okay, Daniel was innocent. Dominic/Timmy was not.
This is just another example of you having an impact on other characters, but not for the good. Not for good.
It really makes me think of really the Monty Python with the guy who just murders his way all through a wedding, and then at the end of it is like, oh.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. That was the Lancelot sequence.
It's a good speech.
Well, that's a good speech. Yeah. All right, next question.
Was there any way for us to save Calvin?
No.
Okay.
Hi, Daily Do. This is a good baby. No, sorry. There was no way to save Calvin. He was definitely unsalvageable.
Okay, because Rianne's got more background than anybody. When did he turn? Or when was he taken over?
So he turned back in First Expeditionary. And he was struggling with the decision for a while. But before he attacked his home castle, he had fully given himself over to cause and yeah. So at that point, before the campaign even started, he was already lost. Deli do. Oh, you're trapped in here. I'm sorry. I will let you upstairs. With the baby.
Guess who is now my problem?
It's the delegate. Yeah, so that's unfortunately there was no saving him. You do have to have antagonists that are unredeemable at times. I know.
No,
Go ahead.
I didn't think he would be salvageable. Rianne knew he wasn't salvageable, but Vera wanted to save him.
Yeah, and that's a natural conclusion, right? You want to save the people you love, even from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's a good question. Yeah, he wasn't salvageable.
I've got a meta question that you're probably not going to answer.
Okay.
How many campaigns do we have to go through before we get one where the goal is a less grimdark afterlife?
So Door of Eternity's been made aware that that is a goal that is present, right? A less grimdark afterlife is kind of something that they've been told is something that needs to happen, or something that they're being pushed towards making happen, right? So, that's your answer right there. For starters, that's when that concept gets introduced, is at the Door of Eternity. So,
Pack that one on the watch list, I guess.
yeah. Wait a minute. Where did you get the circuitous time travel stuff from?
Purely my own tinfoil hat from this game.
Oh yeah, okay. Walk me through your tinfoil hat. Because I'm curious, what led you down that road?
Well, you had the same character, or you intimated at having the same elf set up, Renault and Agnar as being the one I presume to save Dom.
Oh yes, that would be the same witch, yes.
And then I guess just less it being like a string of clues and more like, well, if I was building my own intent as an author, that's what that character is they're the like kind of raven prophet.
Mm-hmm.
So that just made sense as being that. Also a little bit of cope in the sense that, oh, I sure hope that character was one that was twiddling knobs through loops, because that kind of gives me that sets up Renault to be have a stronger legacy, I think. In the sense of like, well, why save Agnar? Well, to set up this character. Why save Dominic if he's gonna fail? To like, well, his failure is important. That kind of stuff, Like in the sense of a broader narrative, it empowers those characters, having been, if an agent of fate nudged their marble has to end somewhere important, or she wouldn't have done.
Oh man, now I feel Doctor Strange. Like if I didn't fail, Thanos would have killed half the world.
That's a good tinfoil hat.
In essence, I saved all of you.
Through my failures, I saved you all.
Well, except for Agnar.
It's one of those like that's one of my motivations for not wanting to roll that right now, is because I'd rather that be a well, we have to see where Renault goes, because if Renault doesn't accomplish enough, or if Furia doesn't accomplish enough, I feel like you got to have that piece in the back pocket of like, well, then why did she nudge those characters?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this loop also not successful? That like,
is this loop doomed, or are these efforts worthless? Yeah, that's interesting. So you have a theory that there's a time loop happening.
Or less. I think it's going in one direction. I think it's a Matrix Zion kind of situation
Okay.
where Valgas is happening over and over again, but these immortal forces are perfectly okay with it.
Mm. Mhm. Gotcha. Gotcha. This is an interesting topic of conversation. I feel like you're paying attention to a lot more stuff than you're leading on. So, which is good, you know. There's quite a few stuff. Have you been watching IHR in the Heart of Rage?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I see. That's where you're getting a lot
As
of.
it's been happening, yeah.
Yeah, I see. That's where you're getting a lot of your clues. So you can tie together. I will put it on the table right now. This is why we have campaign wrap up, so we can put some stuff on the table. I'll put it on the table right now that the dark elf that saved Dominic and taught Agnar how to harness his magic and helped Renault kind of prepare himself for what was coming is the same dark elf that waylaid the party in IHR and was speaking about fate and all that kind of stuff in that one session in the swamps, and then was never seen again, and is also the benefactor dark elf Illyria in Door of Eternity. It's the same person. So she's in all 3 campaigns, pulling levers and handling the marionette strings. So you're onto something, Jordan. Well done.
I will
He's the real
upgrade
villain.
to I'll upgrade to tinfoil helmet then.
Okay.
Next campaign, we'll just go after her.
Well, you both are in Bib, so we'll see what happens with that.
So how does cleaning up Sorath affect the rest of the world?
So Sarath is... Actually, I can just switch to a different scene to help visualize this real quick. So... Okay. So here is Krunth at the beginning of 1050. So this is a few years after your campaign. It's about 3 years after your campaign. A little more than that. Sorath, right here, lies on the main road from Fordeth to Moreth.
I have nothing on my screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me fix this. This should be visible for everybody. Why aren't you? There you go.
I can see the map.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So here's Sorath right here, in the middle of the country. And it lies on this highway north to south that runs straight to Halkorth. Your campaign, since it ended in victory status, prevented Sorath from falling and becoming a second front, at least temporarily, in the middle of the country, which would have diverted resources from the war happening down here in the south, which would have caused significant problems and would have sped up certain events. So you've slowed down the bad guys significantly by preventing them from taking over this city on the main road here that's providing support to Helcor. So...
Yay.
Yay! Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. It does. It impacts. It slowed the enemy advance. This is very much a meta question. Can we win and turn the demons back?
Can you win? Yes. It is very possible to win.
Okay.
Will
we is another matter.
Yeah, it's up to you as players in general. All of you that play these campaigns, your victory conditions are either suited for a couple of different things. One of those things is delay. So you delay or deny the enemy something, right, in your campaigns. So that's what happened in yours. You delayed and denied, the takeover of Sorath, right, which would have accelerated the enemy's advance. In the Heart of Rage, they denied the enemy from killing these two leaders of these two peoples, which has its own impacts. We haven't gotten to the IHR campaign wrap-up yet, so I'm not going to talk about that. And then in Door of the Eternity, who knows what the repercussions there are yet. They haven't even gotten close to the end of their campaign, so we're not going to talk about them either. But like we saw in the prologues, one of the things is just bringing an important character someplace else. So or other important characters someplace else. So in Madness from the West, which is our very first prologue, the Onside people were saved because the party prevented the destruction of the boats and allowed them to escape, right? And so one of the decisions there was, which way do we go? And players made the decision to go north. I think, Gavi, your character made that decision or influenced that decision personally.
So we had in our campaign for that a character that was an elf, I think, who knew Kruth. Because the Onside people, I think, were not as aware of what else was beyond their borders.
Yeah.
So having a character that had something that they knew was what drove the decision to go north, because at least we know there's something up there.
Right.
Whereas if the Onsai hadn't had any idea whatsoever, we don't know what they would have done.
So
they can't go west because that's where
that's where
the issue was.
Right. The issue was west. South was wild land that wasn't tamed or that they barely knew about, and then east was open ocean, so who knows where they would have gone next. So that's there. Then once again in Among Desert Jewels, there was the general objective of, hey, let people know that this bad stuff's happening and do what you can to escape the oncoming tide of the Talian Crusade, and also extract this important character from the city, which they succeeded in doing. The little girl that they rescued in that story turns out to become Furia. So that campaign impacted yours directly, because Furia does show up in your campaign.
Yes, she did.
Yes, she did. So, that's a couple of examples. And one that keeps coming up over and over again is Prison of Al-Hadun, where players failed to meet their mission objectives, but they did succeed in saving the children. They didn't destroy the laboratory, they didn't kill Custodian Marusaraf, they didn't stop his experiments or anything like that, so, he's been left to run amok. But they did save the children of Al-Hadun, who are the Inferni, and that has impacted things greatly. Several Inferni characters have been seen in subsequent campaigns, and we have several important Inferni characters, such as Saifashai Al-Hadun. So that's one of those objectives where, destroying something that the enemy has, but also acquiring something they have changes things. And right now, in the Heart of Rage is trying to prevent something from being destroyed, denying the enemy that as well, that the Corinthians have stolen from the demons in Prison of Al-Hadun, and that's the children. So they took the children, they learned from them how they were made, and are making the daglings from that science, that alchemy. So we'll see whether or not players will be able to play daglings in the next series of games, if In the Heart of Rage succeeds or not. They're in a real tight spot at the moment, so we'll see next Wednesday if they succeed. And then the clear and obvious impacts from city's independence and breaking tradition and the other one, the Scotty one. I can't remember what the Scotty one was.
I was in that one.
You were in the one with the Ith Panther people.
Scaldy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then you were also in or were you in the Darthak one? I think you were. Yeah, you were in the Darthak one.
Darthaki Rising.
Yeah, that one. So, those had clear implications of gathering allies. So usually the campaigns have like some kind of objective of gather allies, or get this thing, or deny the enemy this, right? And so they all have that sort of theme going on. And they're all stacking victory points towards that end goal of winning the war, right? But with the end of In the Heart of Rage coming soon, and the end of Blaze of Cruelty, we're putting the closing... we're writing the closing pages of Chapter 1. So
here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
If we had not succeeded...
Yeah.
We know a little bit of what would have happened, but, like, what would Calvin have continued to do?
So, after opening there's a lot of stuff that was actually happening in the background that Calvin was doing, and one of those things was he was going to use a lot of the flotsam, the people in Sorath that were either homeless or too poor or whatnot, and use them as a means to summon a bunch of demons here in the Sorath region, and then would have taken over the city, right? He would have assaulted the castle, taken over the castle, and then this city would have become a hellscape, and he would have opened up a second front here, in which both Fordeth and Morith would have been threatened immediately by. Because you're in 1047, right? And so a lot of what is happening in 1047 is buying time for the defenses of the nation to be concentrated along this geographical feature here, this cliff face. This cliff face is called the Navarre Wall, and it is very difficult to get past. Yes, demons, some of them can fly, but not enough of them can fly to be able to get around such a geographical feature as this, or around the mountains, which leads a few very small gaps that need to be defended. Here by Morith, and here by the Karl Duchy. So there's also a physical wall that stretches across this geological feature as well. It has a big break here for these roads, but it stretches across the length of the country in that fashion, and so it's twice the fortification, but it needs to be updated, it needs to be fixed in a lot of places because it's fallen to ruin. And so what you're doing in these campaigns is buying enough time for that wall to be fully reinforced, because they are expecting to lose the entire south, because it's just not defensible in the Corinthians' point of view. So, Innersford is a small, very small, or large town or very small city in the middle of Western Scaraptica. It has barely any defenses in that regard. Kelly, we already know, has pledged neutrality and will not be getting involved. Rosterford is it's a foundry industrial town, and not much else is there. And it's in the middle of Eastern Scaraptica, so it is also not well defended in that regard. It's difficult to defend because of that. Which, makes them both more or less expendable in that sense. They have already been, by the time Bib and Kingdom of Darkness roll around, both of these towns have more or less been, or are assumed to be, fully evacuated, right? If there's anybody left there, they're still there of their own accord. And they're not getting rescued. So, hopefully that answers your question, because I find myself that I have rambled again. I can't remember the question.
Calvin have done if we had not
Oh, yes.
defeated him.
Right. So he would have taken over Sorath and attacked Morith and Fordeth and just really caused a problem by preventing the focus being the reinforcement of this geological feature, right? That would have made it a lot easier for the Talian Crusade to proceed north, and we may be seeing a future where by 1050, Morith and they've already gotten past the Navarre Wall, right? And things would be looking more and more real fucking bad. So, that was what you were pretty much preventing from happening, was a really bad and significant issue at these defensive points. So, good question, though. Yeah.
That leads me to two questions, and I'm sorry, Daniel, it involves your character, but
No, it's all good.
why did his senior family destroy
Oh, yeah.
Dominic's family?
Okay.
And what was the mess with the health potions?
Okay, so there are a couple things here to unravel. The Charon are his liege lords, right? And what they wanted was to more or less assuage the Farloda family's issues, because the Farloda family had two issues. Honestly, and Lee calls them Fantasy Monsanto, because they kind of are. But the Farloda family has a bit of a monopoly on druidic magic in Korea. They control it almost exclusively, at least in the ways that they use it. They have sued everyone who has tried to use it or to teach it to others straight into the ground. And if they're willing to do that, they're more than willing to assassinate folks. So they're kind of like the corporate bastards when it comes to herbalism and agriculture in the country. So every other duchy, every other city does not use their druidic techniques for agriculture or for herbalism, and so the Farloda Duchy produces an incredible amount of agricultural goods. Part of that's the components for health potions, right? And what Dominic's family discovered was a better, more efficient way of creating them. A better strain of the plants that produce the health potion. And the Farloda were mad about that, and about the fact that Dominic's grandfather, had embarrassed them in battle a generation ago. There was a little border dispute that the Charon and Farloda fought out on the Anundiak about some of these positions out here. So those were the reasons why his family was destroyed. The Farloda were putting pressure on the Charon to get rid of them, or they were going to do something about it themselves. And the Charon wanted to keep the peace between them, especially in this time of war with the Talian Crusade, and knew they were put in a hard spot. So what wound up happening was a couple of things within the Charon family. Firstly, take notes, Daniel, because a lot of this concerns your enemies. Nikolai had been pushed to the top of the list for who was going to inherit, because he had proven himself to be capable and his sister Deves had been had stumbled this deal with the Farlota that was keeping them at bay. So she fumbled the deal. Farlota were angry. They called in the favors. They called in, this, that, and the other thing, and she lost her position as being the one to inherit. This pissed her off. So the objective was to render the mana pole unable to undercut the Farlota by taking control of the family. They were going to do that by marrying the daughter to Nikolai, and then just basically subsuming the mana pole into their scion houses, into their cadet houses, and then just basically ordering them to stop this production whatsoever. And it would have ended without violence at that point. Right? Deves had a different idea about it. She was angry that she was no longer the heiress to her family's duchy, and she did something about it. She went to Valentin and said, once my brother leaves, we will start. And when he left with his new bride that day, Valentin and his men attacked, and they burned the county to the ground and killed everyone they could. So really, the spider that spun the web around Daniel's suffering was the very same spider who stood next to him when the trial happened in Fordeath, because she orchestrated the whole thing. She was also the person that sent him the letter to get him to stop attacking Charons, but to instead file a lawsuit in Fordeath. So she was pretty much the one that manipulated the whole thing, just because she was angry she was no longer the heiress. Yeah, and her plot to subvert Nikolai's inheritance succeeded in two ways, because firstly, he got blamed for what happened in Sorath, and then he got blamed for what happened to the Manipoles. So she won her little gambit. She was also that rogue you met, Dominic, in the boarding house. That rogue with the black hair, that lady. Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you failed the insight check that would have helped you determine that this was not who she said she was.
Big surprise.
Nice.
But that was
God.
that was Devis Vercheren, and she was pulling one over on you.
She'll get what's coming to her.
Sure, she will. Good question, though. Yeah.
Okay. What about the rest of it? Because health potions are incredibly hard to get hold of. You'd think that one family would be churning them out like crazy.
They're churning them out enough to keep the price high, is what they're doing. They're churning them out enough to meet demand, but to not oversaturate the supply, and to keep their competitors under, from being able to basically cut in on that market. So,
And now they can make them even cheaper.
yep, it's all about their bottom line. Yeah. So.
Wow. So,
Yeah, Yeah. Now you know why Dominic was so pissed off all the time.
I would have thought it would have been
yeah,
about
you
his family being murdered, but apparently it's just about the economics.
It can be about both.
It can be about both. All right. Any other questions from anyone else so far? Because I know Raven, you've been real quiet, and Gavi, you've been pretty quiet, and Jordan, you've been pretty quiet about about a lot of this stuff. Talked a lot of we've answered a lot of Sin and Daniel's question.
Well, a lot of the questions that I have and I think up are answered the minute after it. So.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Great minds think alike.
I see.
And I've asked a lot. I've asked about Calvin.
All right. I'm wrong.
Is
Put me on
any
the
of
spot.
the chicanery that's going on with the Charon family and the other one, because I can't remember their name, going to come to light? Because that's war profiteering, and I think the crown would take a dim view of that. Just my personal opinion.
Probably not, right? Because it would. I mean, we would have to wait and see, but probably not, because it would put in jeopardy the current production of the health potions, the healing potions. And even if the crown found out about it, they wouldn't want to deal with it until after the fact.
Okay.
Because disrupting the supply could be a death sentence. So.
All right.
Oh,
But
okay.
assuming everything goes well,
Yeah, that's a much.
win.
That's a much in the future question, and I couldn't answer that. We don't know who the future monarch would be, if it would change or what. So we don't know that monarch's attitudes.
Vengeance campaign is a post-war arc. Got it.
Well, I'm ready for the next question if you guys have it.
Come on, guys, you gotta have more questions.
The worst that'll happen is I will tell you I can't answer that question. So.
I got my answers.
Well, yeah, I've gotten a bunch of mines. Like I said, I had a bunch, and
What are the Inn's books like? Are they making money? Are they doing well for themselves?
The Inn's books?
Yes.
So the books in the Inn are just like local guides and little cultural guides.
Sort of like their accounting books. Like,
their accounting books. Oh, how's business is what you were asking. Yeah, so the boarding house you're asking about specifically, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So the boarding house is technically funded by Sorath, the government entity, to have a sort of like a truck stop kind of station, you know what I mean, for this highway that runs north to south here, and have a place for people to stay who are traveling it that's not within the city, because there's a toll to enter the city, right? And their goods get put up in the warehouse, but they have every right to stay themselves in the boarding house. So Sorath kind of says, "Hey, we know you don't want to pay too much when it comes to the tolls to pass through the city here. Why don't we let those of you that have the desire to stay outside the city, we'll fund the building." And we'll accept, a modest fee for room and board there, and you'll use this route more often than you would otherwise, because it's convenient. So really, the boarding house is doing well. And even the employees, all three of them, right? Because it's only 3 people that run the place. Are doing fairly well. They are able to save money. The boarding house is able to stay in the black, with guests such as yourselves who are used to paying for every little thing that they purchase and such. So, they're doing pretty good.
I do also love the idea of like a government-funded adventurer decoy and putting it outside the city limit.
Exactly. Why would you want your adventurers to be inside your city limits? That's a terrible idea. Right? Think of the property damage alone.
Yeah. You want as much of the plot to happen outside the wall as possible.
Right, yeah. If I was a city magnate and, adventures were a thing, I would absolutely put the guild outside the city walls. Feel free to fuck up whatever's over there.
Okay, I missed the last session and I haven't watched it for coward reasons. What happened with Piper? And I assume she was completely on the level and what we got.
Thank you for asking a question I also just had.
So Piper was on the level. She really was there to research the undead so that the Crown could have more information about the forces that the Talian Crusade were levying against them. So that was all true, right? The thing that was problematic about her was she was a massive time sink for you guys. Because she wanted to do all this research in the Sorath Graveyard and all these places that had nothing to do with what you guys were trying to accomplish. So while
Worth it.
Yeah, so while she paid you guys very well, she was also a massive distraction. But at the very end of the campaign, she was going to submit an application to build a little, like, arm of the academy to study the Sorath Graveyard and on a more permanent long-term basis. So she was going to build a little school, a little academy here to accomplish that task. So that was her post campaign.
You should absolutely share who inspired her, because I don't think we've said that on stream.
Oh, did I tell you and I don't remember?
Yes.
Okay.
I know.
Well, you say it because I don't remember.
It's the librarian from The Mummy.
Oh yes. Oh, that's what you mean by
Evie!
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she was inspired as a character by Evie from The Mummy. Yeah. She was definitely.
I am a librarian.
Librarian.
I'm her number one investor.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was a time sink, but we learned a lot from that time sink.
Yeah.
A lot of lore.
Yeah, she was helpful in that fashion. Absolutely useless in a
Yeah.
fight. More of a hindrance, really.
Ah, that's all right.
Really looking forward to her. Oh god.
What happens with Mayhem?
Oh, Mayhem's gonna wind up staying with probably James, I think. Because Vera's not gonna drag him to the front line, is she?
No.
No, so...
Vera's not going to put him in danger.
Yeah, so then he's gonna wind up staying with James. So James,
Use
you've...
the official logo for our shops.
So James, you've got a dog!
Best boy.
I think what I said we might do is because one thing that Vera has that she's never had a chance to use is she can ritual cast Speak with Animals.
Mhm.
So there's probably some like side moment RP thing that happens where James and Vera, because we're the ones that discovered Mayhem, like have a very heartfelt like conversation with him about what he wants.
Mhm.
And there's probably tears. That's probably what happens.
Lots of hugging, lots of tears.
Yeah.
Lots of licking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very emotional moment. Yeah. But yeah, that's probably what happens to Mayhem. He probably stays with James. Lives a good life in Sorath. So.
James has a protector. Although, actually, I think you did cast Speak with Animals once. When
I think
you
I
first
tried and then
got-
realized it was ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James did cast Speak with Animal.
Yeah, you definitely have. I may have, but I don't think I've used it much, if I have at all.
Okay, you never did really answer my question on what would happen to Daniel's trinket if it hadn't fried and touched the Power Stone.
Oh, I would have just kept fucking
his
with him.
bathhouse.
Yeah, I would have just kept fucking with
Okay.
him. Yeah. I mean,
It wouldn't have gotten more powerful or anything.
not particularly, no. If he eventually, if like somebody savvy enough eventually saw him with it, he could have gotten into some serious trouble.
Oh, you mean more than he already had been?
Yeah, yeah. So.
Oh, I think
Don't
I've
worry,
run out of questions.
my path to power has a longer, more comedic route.
Mm. Falls
Oh
downstairs.
dear. Dude, you need new dice. You need to do something. You need to contact the dice witch. I don't know what.
Or carry an old lady up a mountain.
That too.
So, are there any other questions before I ask some of mine?
I'm good.
None for
I
me.
don't have any currently.
Okay. Darrow, Raven.
I'm good for
For
now.
me.
Thank you.
All right. So, who was your favorite NPC?
Mayhem.
Okay. Okay.
Mayhem
That's
and
an
Piper.
easy answer. Come on.
Yeah, that's a
Come on, Mayhem and Piper.
that's a softball. Mayhem and Piper.
I also liked Sorvak the Scaldy because I thought it was a nice callback to Vera's story
Mhm.
being part of that Scaldy campaign.
Yeah.
I think it has to be Sorvak.
For you, it has to be Sorvak.
Yeah.
Why is he your favorite?
Ah! I think because he was just kind of like always like no nonsense and like just whenever he like walked in and that one dude like hit him and he just turned and like one shot him. That just I just like that moment.
He was dependable, right?
Yeah, like I think he like just lazily like just swung his axe and just killed that guy
Mhm.
who like so like popped up and like tried to like smite him and then just axe.
Yeah.
Like
Okay,
Like,
that makes a question. Did Sorvak have any ulterior motive going on, or was he just what he was?
He was what he was. He was exactly what he said.
Thank you.
What was said on the tin. Hire
Yay.
Scally for hire. Big death. Make things
he
die.
didn't need to be anything else.
Yeah, make things
Nope.
die.
This is why we did the violin quest, so we could befriend him.
No. Cultist problems require Scaldy's solutions.
All right, what other questions do you have, oh glorious GM?
Yeah, well, generally, like, who your favorite NPCs were and what your favorite side quest was.
Ooh.
Because side quests are, like, where a lot of the... Obviously, if I ask you guys, did you enjoy the main quest? Of course. You guys wouldn't still be here if you didn't, and you have told me time and again that you really enjoyed it. So what is your favorite side quest? And who your favorite NPCs are? So...
I
Well-
think my favorite quest to jump in first is our earliest one where we were just kind of all like sitting in the field, like awkwardly, like
yeah.
waiting for the griffin.
The,
I don't know. That one sticks out to me because it was like, you know, the first time we're like getting to like figure out how each other plays.
Yeah, the Skerpro Salamander quest. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with the little girl who was all about salamanders, and she.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
Right.
All about like hatching eggs and how to take care of salamanders.
And every time she would stop, Dominic would ask her another question.
She'd go on and on and on. Little Inferni girl definitely has seen some horror and trauma. All about salamanders, living her best life as a kid, you know.
I think that one kind of defined the character interactions a bit, and so that's the one that I gravitate to.
Anyone else have a favorite?
Now that I know, even though I know it's a time sink, I actually like going through the graveyard and finding all those clues. I mean, I like a good dungeon crawl.
Yeah.
I mean, just kill the monsters, steal their stuff, and that was kill their monsters, steal their stuff. There was other things going on that, but for me,
Scratch that itch.
give me a oh yeah, scratch that itch big time.
And you got to hang out with Piper for the whole
And we
thing.
got to hang out with Piper.
Yeah, just good stuff. So it was a big time sink. It was good. It was a good, but it was also designed to get you guys paid, right? So you could afford to level up your gear and your stuff, so that you could stand a chance, right? I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but there was a very early point in the game, I probably have, in the game where you could have just pushed to the end. And good thing you didn't, because you would have gotten bodied. Because it was the first time you went down to the Vaults of Sorath and had that first fight in there. With all the cultists the first time.
Hmm.
And you could have gone
Okay.
towards the end at that point and tried to fight Calvin there. And that would not have ended well for you guys. So,
Oh no.
but yeah, that's what Piper's quests were designed to sink time and also to pay you, in both lore and money. So we got.
Well, that's how we got the Files of Fulmination.
Mm-hmm.
Love those things.
Yeah, Raven, what was your favorite side quest?
I would say I really like the dungeon crawl that we did with Piper.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the moment that I had to use, I believe, command to stop to stop little Timmy from doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And then we did stupid stuff anyways.
Oh yeah. Is that when he blew up the wall?
Ah, it was the
Yeah.
crypt.
Yeah, it was one of the crypts where he blew up a wall and sent himself flying and almost killed himself. Yeah.
Worth it.
Oh.
And I haven't said my favorite NPC so far, but it is not a singular NPC. It is more like all the smaller NPCs that we really haven't interacted much with, like Sonya and the Rune Smithy. I really like them because you really make them feel alive.
Well, thank you. I try hard to make every person you run across into a person, rather than just like, a dismissible kind of thing. So I appreciate that. I really do. Darrow, what was your favorite side quest? Not that you really had one, I don't think. And who was your favorite NPC?
Ooh, I think Renault's favorite NPC is the lady who gave him pies and waffles, if we're being honest.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know if I had a specific favorite. I think I had a great time with pretty much everything. I'm very much I like to mix between like roleplay and combat a lot. So the fact that there was a lot of each was good. I think if I had to guess, my actual real favorite was probably just that initial beginning where, hey, we come in and we assist this crazy man who's fighting the guards like 5-1, and we have to sneak our way back to wherever he comes from because he says that he'll pay us. That was a good time. It was also probably very just almost improvised as of that point, I figure, right? Because like, I don't know if you were expecting that to go that way.
No, that entire encounter was improvised. So
Yeah.
Well, my favorite Renault scene was whenever you got your ass kicked by Furiosa.
Yeah, that's fair.
her name
That's
is
fair.
not
And actually,
Furiosa, for the record.
It's Furia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He'll be Furiosa out of me.
Didn't she kick your ass too?
Nope, I managed to talk my way out of it.
That's right, you did.
Oh yeah, no, I barely hit her. I think I got one good nick, and that's about it. That was it.
I think her
No chance.
I think her AC is only 20, so you really whiffed it.
Yeah, I did. My rolls were not good.
What level is she?
She's not a player character in that regard, so she's not.
Not statted out.
She's not statted out like a leveled player character. Statted out like a leveled NPC. Her CR, really depending on like where you guys are in the campaign, your level wise, will set her stats. So she came in as a CR 5 or so. She had about 100 hit points. So.
Oh, that must be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't know how much strength she had, but I knew how much she used to whip Renault's ass.
All of it. Well, some of
Yeah.
it. Some of it. She did whip Renault's ass, though.
Mhm.
Okay.
She's 15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 years as junior, and she knocked his ass out.
Yeah. So here's a question. And did everybody say who their favorites were?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
All right. So here's a question. Was anyone moderately or even remotely inclined to romance any of the NPCs? Curious.
No.
Okay. Is that no because you didn't know that was an option, or is that a no because you didn't? That's not a thing you normally do?
I've done it, but with Rianne, the answer would be no. She's busy.
I'm busy.
I'm sorry, she has a kingdom to save. She's busy.
Call me in 10 to 40 years. I'm busy.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, now there's some whole missed opportunities there with a Scaldi. I mean, just think what could have been.
I'd rather not.
I
No.
think I think that there weren't really a whole lot of NPCs that were within Renault's age range, being 18.
Mm.
Shit. I mean, honestly, the closest is like Furia, and even then, that's kind of like 3 years. I don't know.
Piper.
Thanks, Del.
Yeah, Piper was 18.
Oh,
Yeah.
no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just,
that I didn't realize.
oh, well, missed opportunity there. I could have romanced Piper. God fucking damn it. What were you gonna say, Gavi?
I was yelling at our dog.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
See how it is. No one else has any Scaldi love.
Nobody else has any romantic interests. I see. We're all very business this time around.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just. I guess my headspace, particularly with Agnar, was that it was just, like not the part of his life that he's in.
Yeah. Well, he already had sown his wild oats, right? So.
Right.
And I mean, for James, it wouldn't feel right since he was still in mourning.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess our only eligible bachelors and bachelorettes would have been Renault, Dominic, and Vera. No.
Vera was not
Okay.
interested in that at all.
Okay, so just Renault and Dominic then.
so is romance something you want to have happen in your campaign? Because this is not the feel I get from it.
Oh no, it's not something that is like, how do I put it? It is not a focus, but it is something that you can do if you want, that I'm not against.
Okay.
So I'm not telling you no. right? Because that's a thing that people do, right? But I'm also not building the campaign around the potential for a romance. At least, not this one, not any of the other ones that are currently built or being built right now. They're not built around the idea of, okay, romance is the objective here, guys. You need to fall in love and get a proposal by the end of the campaign, or you fail and the country falls to ruin, right? That's not...
Don't try seducing the big bad that's obviously a demon.
Right. That's not, that's not the tone right here, but if you wanted to, it wouldn't be a rejected idea, right? So, this is why I ask, like, at the end of the campaign, what is your character doing in the future? An answer could always be like, oh, now that things are calmed down and I am free of like these horrible, difficult times and these obligations, I would like to explore the possibility of a romance with X NPC and see where that goes. And I would say, sure, let's roll some charisma and some persuasion checks and see how this goes. And then if you're Daniel, you bomb those and you get rejected and a drink thrown in your face, right?
I'm just saying, if I would have rolled first the Scaldy Love, I would have got a 20.
Oh, okay.
This is true. You would have gotten the role, then you would have got.
Man, now I'm like, I wonder what the DCs on the various ships are.
There's a thing to talk about for a moment there. If you could ship 2 NPCs, who would you ship?
Oh, we've entered this part of the question. Okay.
I suppose. I don't know. What else are we going to talk about for 13 minutes?
My late night question.
This is what you're going to be thinking about when you go back to bed.
I think James.
I mean, the boarding house staff is a polycule.
Just the 3 ladies are just like in a throuple. Is that what it is? Jordan?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Not to speak for other people's characters, but my ship is James and Piper. I'm gonna call it Pipe Ames. No, Jasper? Yes.
No. Jasper? No.
Actually, Piper and the runesmith.
Oh my.
I can see them sitting together, going over information, ancient tomes, talking things back and forth, and easily falling in love through that.
I see.
Without even realizing it. They would literally stumble into it.
And as we're watching this rom-com unfold, we're just screaming at them, just kiss already!
Yeah!
Yeah, I can see that.
And they'd be utterly oblivious to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's my ship.
Okay.
And they'd be stupidly adorable together.
I see.
Yeah, that's a side plot in the sitcom centered on James's shop,
Right.
trying to survive various Dominic plots.
Right.
Dominic is just a B plot.
It's mainly about like what happens in James's store. Dominic comes in every once in a while, throws her monkey wrench into things. We have our 2 frequent shoppers, the Runesmith and Piper, who are occasionally in there at the same time, and James is like, "Oh, are they gonna talk to each other this time or no?" Oh, they're both checking out the reagents for alchemy. Okay.
I just want you to know, Dominic would be completely on board with getting Jasper set up, even if it meant sabotaging Runesmith.
I see. All right.
I would be that awkward wingman for you, man. I would do that for you.
Well, any other questions or last minute statements we wanna make?
Not that I can think of right now. Other than I really wish the campaign hadn't ended because I don't know. Really, really like gaming with you guys.
Mm.
You're a good group.
Well, you're all moving except for Gavi, who's taking a break.
Sorry.
You're all moving on to new groups. Some of you sooner than others. But you're going to be in new groups. You're going to have fun in those new groups. You're going to have a lot of fun in your new campaigns. So 10 out of 10 would play Blaze of Cruelty again.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
11 out of 10.
Mm.
I do 9 out of 10 because I miss the Scaldy love.
Oh my god. Seems like
You started it.
I-
You started it.
I don't know how I could stress this enough, but you guys just did not bite the romance hook, and that's okay. But that's a you.
I didn't know the option was there for him to calibrate my sensors.
Listen.
Wow.
I'm
Now
gonna.
you know in the future.
I'm gonna put that over here in this box labeled for recycling, and move on to the next thing, which is you. I'm glad you guys had a lot of fun, and you guys were a joy to run the game for. And any feedback you could give me that you would like to give me in private, please send me a message over Discord directly so that I can look at it, dissect it, give it to one of my dogs to chew on for a little bit, and then really absorb it so that I can get better as a DM and provide better experiences for you guys, and players like you in the future. So that's it. That's my last thing to say.
Okay, just does the chat have any questions?
Oh,
or is there no chat on this one?
There is a chat on this one, but they don't get to ask questions.
Okay, I was being nice.
Not today. Well, they could ask a question in the next 8 minutes if they'd like. But they're a little bit behind. They're about like 5 seconds behind. So we'll see. We'll see if they have anything for us in these last few minutes.
Because they're on the outside. We're on the inside.
Yeah.
Well, if I could float a risky one.
Go ahead and float a risky one.
Is Bucket going to be in Bib?
Is Bucket going to be in Bib? Oh my god. You're not allowed to ask questions about future campaigns. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was worth a try.
Were there any PCs, player characters, that were interested in each other? I think no. I think the answer to that question is no. But I'll leave that to the rest of you.
With Rianne, no, they were all babies.
Right.
I mean, there might have been a 300-year age gap, but you didn't even think about it once.
Okay, so 2 more questions came in. Who was each character's best friends, and who hated who secretly? I don't think there was any secret hate going on. I think the hate was right out in the open in front of everybody.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then were there any secrets that didn't come up between your characters' stories?
The one that sticks out to me is the letter that Vera wrote Rianne, which pretty much was just for everyone's knowledge. She didn't think she'd be able to kill Calvin because Vera is much closer in age. She, seems very close to Rianne. It's more of like a mentor relationship. And so I had built out that she was kind of at one point a ward of House Ariash while her family was doing something else. So she got very close to the family. And so Calvin had a direct impact on her decision to become a soldier. So basically it was like I don't think I'm going to do this because I know exactly what he's going to try to do and I need you to do it for me. Didn't turn out like that.
Nope, Rianne was more than willing to do it. She wanted to do it to spare Vera that because stated reasons, and it was her responsibility. But the dice did not let her do it.
Vera was also not interested in anybody in the campaign. There were other things to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate anybody secretly. I actually was quite amused by Timmy, though I would probably never say it in front of Rianne.
Rianne did not hate Timmy, but my God, he annoyed the hell out of her.
In a loving way.
Let's see here. Was there a plot thread you wished someone had asked your character about? Who performed the best fatality throughout the campaign? Was there something you wished you had done but didn't?
Rianne kill Calvin, but I can't. You guys?
Best fatality.
I had a Hail Mary plan at the end that if Rianne or Vera both fell, I was gonna crystal bomb Calvin, but I'm glad that didn't happen because we would have probably all died.
Crystal bomb? What's that?
You got some hydrilium crystals, right?
And some fulmination potions. I figured that would make a nice explosion.
Yeah, you probably were gonna duct tape the two of those things together and just see what happened, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, I see you. Let's see. Best fate.
Honestly,
Go ahead.
the best fatality probably to Rianne, and here's why. Because when we went into the cult location the first time, I swore we were gonna die, and then there were all these fulmination potions that apparently someone had the foresight to get. So I think that wins for me.
Yes, the burning cultists. When your GM puts grenades in the store, buy them.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, you got my GM gave me grenades. The hell I'm not gonna use them.
Yeah.
And they were clutch, is what I'm saying.
Let's see. Couple more questions. Let's see. Was there something you wished you had done but didn't? Was there a plot thread you wished someone had asked your character about? Was there any aspects of your character's personality or quirk that didn't get explored fully? I think that'll be it for question. That'll be it for the session once those are covered.
Not really with Rianne, no.
I've got one I just thought of. What happened with the Bardic inspirations? I feel like that was something that was before me and Darrow showed up.
Bardic inspirations? Oh, Raven would have James distribute them all the time, like a good bard. And then
we wouldn't use them.
And then they wouldn't use them at all. They would just not get used.
Yeah,
We were so bad.
Oh man, we got a couple of sessions in before I realized that I was like, I had a real moment where Raven said something, and I was like, wait, we have a bard?
There was a question of what the fuck is Raven playing for this entire campaign? It's definitely not a bard, probably just a warlock, right? Here's a bardic inspiration for you. Mind confused and broken. He's a bard?
In the game, he'd be like, "Oh, you got a D4 for that. Don't forget your D4." Nah, I don't want to use it.
I don't want to touch a warlock's
Like, oh,
D4.
game's over.
I don't want to touch this warlock's D4.
Right.
James, how did that make you feel?
Incredibly frustrated.
I'm so sorry, my dude.
Nah, it's fine.
No.
I will tell you right up, that is a problem I have. I always forget that damn thing.
Mm.
Doesn't matter which game I'm in, I will forget it. So
We saw.
don't take it personal.
We kind of solved it at our home table by providing a coin to the person who's been given bardic inspiration, and I really think you should make them hold it Gavi until they use it. That way they don't forget it's there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fun
we
fact,
can't-
I play a bard.
Ah,
I'm
But we
actually a
can't do
quite
that on
excellent
Foundry.
bard.
we can't do that on Foundry.
No. But yeah, I think that's it for us for the evening and for
Yeah.
a while for this group. Thank you for coming out and hanging out with me and answering and asking questions. The 5 of you, the 6 of you.
Thank you for having wrap up and would play with this group. Again, 10 out of 10.
Mm,
Thank you, everybody.
We'll
Yeah, I
play
know,
in the
I'm-
future.
yeah.
I'm like, because this was the first game that I had here, so I definitely appreciate the invite and thanks for running the game.
Oh, absolutely. You were a joy to play, run the game for. So I'm looking forward to our time together in Bib. So, I'm gonna go ahead and close this down so I can have a little bit of a 30-minute break, and before my next game, which is Door of Eternity, starts in 30 minutes or so. So kindly hang out for that if you'd like. Any bonuses bought now between now and the start of that game will go to Door of Eternity. So if you'd like to buy some bonuses with your channel points, go ahead and do that. That's it for Blaze of Cruelty, everybody. I hope you have a good time, a good rest of your night. So I'm gonna move over to intermission and switch things up. So
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
okay, so